My wife treated me like I was just a backup plan and mocked everything I built, so I walked away. But what she saw next left her speechless. I, a 35-year-old male, own what I'd call a pretty successful gym. Not one of those corporate chain places, but a real community spot that I built from literally nothing. We're talking about starting with a broken-down warehouse, maxed-out credit cards, and a dream. Now we have over 400 active members, 5 trainers working for me, and a reputation that brings people from 3 towns over. My wife Sarah, a 33-year-old female, and I met back when I was just a regular trainer at one of those big box gyms. You know, the ones with more pizza parties than actual workouts. She came in as a client, all designer workout gear and attitude, but something clicked. She was working in marketing, making decent money, and seemed to really appreciate my entrepreneurial spirit. At least that's what I thought. Fast forward 8 years of marriage, and man, let me tell you how things can change. The signs were there, but you know how it is when you're grinding. Sometimes you're too busy building to notice your foundation's cracking. So, here's where it all went sideways. It was a Tuesday. Funny how you remember these details. I had just finished what felt like the longest day ever at the gym. I had to cover for Mike, one of my best trainers, who called in sick with food poisoning or something. I spent the morning fixing a treadmill because the repair guy couldn't come until the next week, and had back-to-back sessions with clients, including this one, Karen, literally her name, who spent 30 minutes arguing about her membership contract. Fun times. Despite all that, I still wanted to spend time with Sarah. That's what you do in a marriage, right? Make time for each other. So, I get home around 9:30 p.m., shower quickly, and find her on the couch, scrolling through her phone like it holds the secrets to the universe. I remember exactly what I said. Hey babe, wanna watch that new show you were talking about? I know it's late, but I could use some us time. Simple request, right? Nothing crazy. I wasn't asking for much. Her response? Holy crap, bros. I can still hear it in my head. Without even looking up from her phone, in this ice-cold voice I didn't even recognize, she says, "I don't owe you intimacy." Like, what the actual heck? I stood there for a good minute, probably looking like I just dropped a plate mid-bench press. I had to ask her to repeat it because surely I misheard, right? But nope, she doubles down. She finally looks up from her phone and says it again, like she's reading from a script. "I don't owe you intimacy. I'm tired of you acting like it's some kind of obligation just because we're married." Now, let me be clear about something. I wasn't even talking about sex. I literally just wanted to watch TV together. Heck, I was so tired I probably would have fallen asleep halfway through anyway. But she took it there, and man, it was like someone just reprogrammed my brain. I started thinking about all the times I'd come home late from the gym, tired as heck, but still trying to connect. All the mornings I'd get up at 4:30 a.m. to open up, work until late, then come home and try to be a good husband. Meanwhile, she's there acting like me wanting to spend time together is some kind of personal attack. You know what really gets me? Earlier that same day, I had a client, an older dude, probably in his mid-60s. Tell me how lucky I was to own my own business, be in good shape, and have a supportive wife. I remember nodding along, thinking, yeah, I am pretty lucky. Funny how one sentence can make you question everything. The rest of that night was weird as hell. I didn't even argue with her. I just said, okay, and went to the kitchen to meal prep for the next day. She stayed on the couch, probably posting on social media about how hard her corporate job is or whatever. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about how we got here. This was the same woman who used to bring me lunch during my shifts at the old gym, who said she loved my ambition when I told her my dream of opening my own place, who promised to be my biggest supporter. Now, she treats basic human connection like it's some kind of favor she's doing me, like wanting to spend time with my wife is this huge imposition on her precious phone scrolling time. Looking back, this was the moment everything changed. Not because of what she said, though that was pretty messed up, but because it made me finally see things clearly. Sometimes it takes one moment, one sentence, to wake you up to reality. About a month after Sarah dropped that emotional nuke on our marriage, I was reviewing new membership applications. I usually delegate this stuff to my staff, but after that night with Sarah, I started staying later at the gym. It was easier than going home to someone who treats basic conversation like it's a huge favor, you know? That's when I saw her application. Emma, a 31-year-old female physical therapist, recently moved to the area for a job at the new sports medicine clinic. Under fitness goals, she wrote this detailed paragraph about recovering from a college sports injury and wanting to get back to competitive shape. Not the usual tone up or lose weight we usually get. This was someone who knew her stuff. She signed up for personal training sessions with me specifically, said she'd checked out our website and liked our approach to functional fitness. The first session was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Early birds are usually the serious ones, bros. I've got to be honest here. The first time Emma walked in, I didn't think potential relationship or anything like that. I was in full trainer mode, focused on assessing her form and creating a program. But something was different from the start. The first thing she asks me is, "How long did it take you to turn this place around?" I must have looked confused because she goes, "I saw the before pictures on your Instagram. That warehouse renovation was impressive. Like, who actually pays attention to that stuff?" Sarah had complained for weeks when I was renovating this place, said I was obsessed with work. But here's this client, actually interested in the journey. During our first session, in between sets, Emma's asking about business structure, community building, and marketing strategies. Not in a nosy way, she was genuinely curious. She mentioned she'd helped the PT clinic she used to work at build their social media presence from scratch. Over the next few weeks, Emma became one of my regular clients. 3 sessions a week, always on time, always prepared. She'd come in with questions about her form, show me research articles about new training techniques, and even pointed out ways we could improve our website's booking system. Meanwhile, things at home were getting worse. Sarah's scrolling through her phone while I'm trying to talk about maybe starting a second location. Emma's bringing me articles about successful gym expansions and sharing stories about her PT clinic's growth. One morning, after a particularly rough night at home, Sarah had spent dinner telling me I needed to get some balance in my life. I was pretty much running on caffeine and frustration. I had clients back to back, forgot to eat, typical gym owner stuff. Emma shows up for her session, takes one look at me, and says, "You look like you're about to crash." Before I can even respond, she pulls out this protein shake from her bag. "Made extra this morning," she says. "Figured you might need it. It's got that grass-fed whey protein you mentioned liking." It wasn't anything fancy, just a basic shake, but man, the thoughtfulness of it hit different. When was the last time Sarah had done anything like that? Heck, when was the last time she'd even asked how my day was without following it up with a complaint? To be absolutely clear, nothing happened between me and Emma during this time. I'm not that guy, never will be. Everything was completely professional, but it did make me start seeing things differently, like how Emma would get excited hearing about my plans for the gym's future while Sarah would roll her eyes and call it my obsession, or how Emma would notice when I was stressed and offer genuine support while Sarah would use my stress as ammunition in arguments. The contrast was getting harder to ignore. One morning, I'm telling Emma about this new training program I'm developing for senior clients. She immediately starts sharing her PT experience with older patients, offering insights I hadn't even considered. That same evening, I tried telling Sarah about it, and she barely looks up from her phone, just mumbles, "That's nice," like I'm talking about the weather. I remember sitting in my office one day looking at some paperwork. When it hit me, I was more comfortable talking to a client I'd known for a month than I was talking to my wife of 8 years. That's messed up, right? But here's the thing about Emma. She wasn't trying to replace Sarah. She wasn't trying to do anything except be a good client, and, eventually, a friend. She'd share ideas about the business, sure, but always kept things professional. If anything, her presence just highlighted how far my marriage had fallen. I started dreading going home even more, not because I wanted to be around Emma again, keeping it professional, but because every interaction with her reminded me of what a supportive relationship should look like, even just on a basic human level. You know those movies where the main character has this moment where all these random things suddenly connect? That's what happened to me one random Thursday evening. I was doing the gym's monthly finances. Exciting stuff, I know. And Sarah walks in, complaining about how we never go on fancy dates anymore. Mind you, I'm literally sitting there with spreadsheets showing how she just dropped $3,000 on a shopping spree last weekend. Designer bags, shoes, whatever. But me wanting to reinvest in the business? That's apparently a problem. That's when I started really thinking about our whole relationship. Flashback to when I first opened the gym. Sarah actually told me I was being irresponsible for using our savings, mostly my savings, by the way, as part of the down payment. She said I should be realistic and keep my trainer job at the corporate gym. Now that we're successful, she loves telling her friends how we built this business from scratch. We? Where was that we when I was sleeping on a camping mat in my office during renovations because we couldn't afford contractors? Meanwhile, Emma's literally sending me articles about small business expansion strategies during her training sessions. One day she comes in excited because she found this study about how independent gyms can compete with big chains by focusing on community building. She's not even getting paid for this, just genuinely wants to see the business succeed. But here's what really opened my eyes. I had this client, Mark, changed his name obviously, who's going through a divorce. The guy's been training with me for years, always seemed pretty happy. One day, he's doing deadlifts and just starts opening up about his marriage. Everything he said hit way too close to home, how his wife would dismiss his achievements, how she'd spend money on herself, but, criticize his business investments, how she'd tell her friends he was emotionally unavailable but shoot him down every time he tried to connect. Sound familiar? I started paying attention to Sarah's behavior more closely. I noticed how she'd only show interest in the gym when she could use it to impress people. Like when her college friends visited, suddenly she's giving them a tour, acting like she's involved in day-to-day operations. Meanwhile, she couldn't even remember the names of my staff who've been with me for years. The money thing really started bothering me too. I found out she'd been telling her friends I was obsessed with work while dropping hundreds at fancy restaurants with her work friends every week. One time, I suggested setting up a proper business emergency fund, and she acted like I was taking money away from our future. Sorry, I didn't realize Jimmy Choo bags were essential for our future. Emma noticed something was off during our sessions. She never pried, but she'd say things like, "You seem distracted today. Want to focus on heavy bag work?" She knew hitting things helped me think. One time, I mentioned dealing with some business stress, and she shared this breathing technique she uses with her PT patients. No judgment, no criticism, just genuine support. Then came this eye-opening moment at Sarah's company party. The first one I'd been to in a while because, running a business. Sarah's introducing me to her coworkers, and I kid you not, she describes me as just a gym owner with this weird apologetic tone. Just a gym owner, the same gym that paid for her Range Rover. Meanwhile, Emma's telling her PT clients about my gym's adaptive fitness program for seniors, something she helped develop ideas for. I found out she'd been recommending us to her patients because she believed in what we were building. No ulterior motive, no social media clout chasing, just genuine respect for the work. I started realizing how much time I spent walking on eggshells around Sarah. Like I couldn't talk about the gym without her making some passive-aggressive comment about work-life balance, couldn't mention potential upgrades or expansions without her sighing dramatically, couldn't even celebrate small wins without her somehow making it about her. The final straw? I found Sarah's open laptop one day. I wasn't snooping, I was moving it off the couch, and her Facebook messages were up. She was complaining to her friends about how I chose the gym over her and was probably cheating with some gym bunny. The same woman who hasn't asked me about my day in months was playing victim online. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, the dismissive comments, the financial double standards, the constant criticism. I realized I was more comfortable talking business with a client, Emma, than sharing anything real with my own wife. I started hitting the bags after hours, trying to clear my head. One night, I stayed so late that the cleaning crew had come and gone. I just sat in my office, looking at old photos from when we first opened. Sarah was smiling in those pictures, acting proud. When did that turn into resentment? Or was it always there, and I just didn't want to see it? Sarah must have sensed something was different because she started doing this weird thing where she'd randomly show up at the gym. Not to work out, mind you, just to surprise me. After 8 years of barely showing interest in my business, suddenly she's there all the time. The first time she came by, she walked in right in the middle of Emma's session. I was spotting Emma during a particularly heavy set of squats, giving the usual trainer feedback about form and breathing. Sarah just stood there, watching, with this look on her face I couldn't quite read. After Emma finished her set, she politely introduced herself to Sarah, totally professional. Sarah just gave this tight smile and said she needed to steal her husband for a minute. The conversation that followed was bizarre. Sarah started going off about how I seemed different lately, said I wasn't present in our marriage anymore. Rich, coming from someone who spent the last few months basically ignoring me unless she needed something, right? But here's the kicker. She suggested I cut back on my client load and delegate more so we could spend more time together. Translation, she wanted me to give up the hands-on part of my business that I actually love. The part where I get to help people change their lives, the part that built this whole thing in the first place. Meanwhile, my business was actually growing faster than ever. Word had gotten around about our new adaptive fitness program, the one Emma helped brainstorm, and we were getting referrals from the sports medicine clinic. Sarah's response? Maybe we should hire someone to handle that program so you can focus on management. But check this out. The next day, she posts this long Instagram caption about being a proud gym owner's wife with a photo of our storefront. Didn't mention it was taken months ago, or that she'd spent the last year complaining about how much time I spent there. The comments were full of her friends talking about what a power couple we were. I nearly choked on my protein shake reading that. Emma noticed the change in atmosphere immediately. She started scheduling her sessions during quieter hours, saying she didn't want to cause any tension. I assured her everything was professional, but she just gave me this knowing look and said, "Sometimes people create drama where there isn't any because they're afraid of losing something they've already lost." That hit hard because it was exactly what was happening. Sarah wasn't upset about losing me, she was upset about losing control. Things got really weird when Sarah started trying to mark her territory at the gym. She'd bring me lunch, something she hadn't done in literally years, but only when Emma was scheduled for training. She started posting gym selfies with captions like supporting my man, even though she barely worked out anymore. She even tried to sit in on one of Emma's sessions, claiming she wanted to learn more about what you do all day. One time, Sarah actually interrupted a session to ask my opinion about curtains. Curtains. In the middle of me coaching Emma through a complex Olympic lift. Do you know how dangerous that could have been? Emma, bless her, just racked the bar and calmly suggested we take a water break. The final straw came during a staff meeting. We were discussing the expansion plans, looking at potential locations for a second gym, crunching numbers, all that fun stuff. Emma had connected us with some of her PT colleagues who were interested in a possible collaboration. It was exciting, real growth potential. Sarah showed up unannounced, again, walked into the meeting and started questioning everything. Isn't one location enough? Why take on more debt? Don't you think you're being a bit ambitious? In front of my entire staff. She even made this snide comment about how some people were getting awfully invested in our business decisions. After everyone left, I finally confronted her. I asked her what her problem was. That's when she dropped it. She thought Emma and I were having an affair. Based on what? According to her, Emma was too interested in the business to be just a client. She said she'd seen how we looked at each other during sessions. I lost it. I told her she was seeing things that weren't there because she couldn't handle the fact that someone actually respected my work. I pointed out that in the past month, Emma had shown more genuine interest in my business than Sarah had in years. Sarah's response? Well, if you care about her opinion so much, maybe you should marry her instead. That's when everything clicked. Sarah wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the lifestyle my business provided. She didn't care about the gym's success except for how it made her look to others, and she definitely didn't care about my dreams unless they aligned with her image of what our life should be. I went home that night and slept in the guest room. I didn't even tell her. I just grabbed my pillow and went. She didn't come looking for me, probably too busy posting on social media about how hard marriage is or whatever. That first night in the guest room was weird. I kept waiting for Sarah to come knocking, to ask what was wrong, to show literally any interest in fixing things. She didn't. Instead, I could hear her on the phone in our bedroom, probably telling her friends about what a terrible husband I was. The walls in our house aren't that thick, and I definitely caught phrases like married to his gym and that woman, meaning Emma. The next morning was even weirder. Sarah acted like everything was normal, made coffee, asked if I wanted breakfast, like she hadn't just accused me of having an affair in front of my entire staff the day before. I grabbed my gym bag and left without eating. She posted on Instagram an hour later about marriage taking work with some stupid inspirational quote background. The disconnect was insane. At the gym, I had to do damage control. I called a staff meeting before opening and explained the situation. I told them straight up, there was nothing going on with Emma, but my marriage was definitely having issues. They were surprisingly supportive. Mike, my head trainer, actually said he'd been wondering how long I'd put up with Sarah's behavior. Apparently, she'd been making comments to staff when I wasn't around. Emma texted, saying she was switching to training with Ashley, our female trainer, to avoid causing more drama. I respected that, but it also made me angry. Why should a paying client have to change their routine because my wife couldn't handle the fact that someone actually valued my work? I told Emma she didn't have to switch, but she insisted, saying she didn't want to be the reason anyone's marriage had problems. That hit me hard. Here was someone willing to inconvenience herself just to avoid drama, while my own wife was creating drama left and right. Emma even offered to connect Ashley with her PT contacts for the expansion plans so the business wouldn't lose those opportunities. Meanwhile, Sarah was still telling everyone who'd listened that the expansion was a midlife crisis. Things at home got progressively worse. Sarah started this weird campaign of passive-aggressive gestures. She'd cook these elaborate dinners, something she hadn't done in years, but then get mad when I had late clients. She'd schedule date nights without checking my calendar, then play victim when I had prior commitments. She even started showing up at the gym in her old workout gear, trying to recreate how we met or something. One night, she left her laptop open again, starting to think this was deliberate, and I saw her Facebook messages. She was part of this group chat where she was painting this completely twisted version of our marriage. According to her, I was this controlling husband who changed once I got successful, and Emma was this homewrecker trying to steal her man. The responses were wild. Her friends suggesting she document everything and protect her assets. Protect what assets? The ones my business paid for? The Range Rover she drives that we bought with gym profits? The designer bag she buys with the disposable income we have because I built something successful? The next day, I did something I should have done months ago. I went to see a lawyer. Not to file for divorce yet, but to understand my options. The lawyer confirmed what I suspected. The business was pretty much protected since I started it before marriage, and Sarah had minimal involvement. I actually showed them screenshots of her social media posts dismissing the gym as my obsession. The lawyer said that could help prove she wasn't involved in building the business. When I got home that evening, Sarah was waiting with this whole production, candles lit, dinner made, dressed up like she used to when we were dating. For a split second, it almost worked. Almost. Then she started talking about how we should reconnect by taking a long vacation. Suggested I could step back from the gym for a while and let the staff handle things. That's when it hit me. She didn't want to fix our marriage. She wanted to fix her control over me. The gym represented something she couldn't control, and Emma represented someone who valued that part of me. I looked at her across that candlelit table and felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, just emptiness. When did my wife become a stranger? Or was she always this person, and I just didn't want to see it? I want a separation, I said, right in the middle of her vacation planning monologue. The change in her face was instant, first shock, then anger, then this calculated look I'd seen too many times lately. Is this about her? She demanded. Are you leaving me for that trainer? No, I replied. I'm leaving because you just proved my point. After everything that's happened, you still think this is about another woman. It's not. It's about you not respecting me, my work, or my dreams, unless they fit your narrative. She started crying then. Not quiet tears, but full-on dramatic sobs. She kept saying she'd change, she'd do better, she'd be more supportive. But all I could think about was how she'd been telling her friends to document everything. Her tears didn't seem real anymore. I packed a bag while she was still crying in the dining room. I called my buddy Jake, who owns a boxing gym across town. He had a spare room and understood the situation. As I was leaving, Sarah suddenly switched tactics. She started talking about how I was throwing away 8 years of marriage, how I'd regret this, how Emma wouldn't respect me once the novelty wore off. Emma, I said, has shown me more respect as a client than you have as a wife, and that's the problem. The first week after moving out was a weird mix of feeling like crap and feeling weirdly free. Jake's got this spare room above his boxing gym. Nothing fancy, but it felt more like home than my actual house had in months. Sarah was blowing up my phone with everything from angry accusations to tearful apologies. I just let it go to voicemail. Emma had switched to training with Ashley, and I respected that boundary. But fate's got a funny way of playing with your life sometimes. About 2 weeks after I moved out, I was grabbing coffee at this little place near the gym. You know, one of those hipster joints where they actually know what they're doing with espresso. And there she was, sitting at a corner table with a laptop and a stack of PT files. Not going to lie, I almost turned around and left, didn't want to make things awkward. But she saw me and waved me over. I heard about the separation, she said. No judgment, no pity, just acknowledgement. Turns out, news travels fast in the fitness community. We ended up talking for 3 hours. Not about Sarah, not about the drama, but about everything else. She was working on expanding her PT practice, maybe opening her own clinic someday. I told her about my plans for the second gym location. It was just easy. No walking on eggshells, no hidden agendas, just two people sharing their dreams and actually giving a damn about what the other person was saying. Meanwhile, Sarah was going full scorched earth. She'd posted this vague Instagram story about staying strong through betrayal or some nonsense. Her friends were sending me nasty messages about how I was throwing away a good woman. Good woman? The same one who told me she didn't owe me intimacy and tried to sabotage my business? The next day, I had this meeting with a commercial real estate agent about the second location. Emma had mentioned this up-and-coming area where the sports medicine clinic was expanding. Thought it might be good for a gym. She was right. The demographics were perfect. Lots of young professionals, not much competition. After the meeting, I texted Emma to thank her for the tip. She suggested meeting for coffee again to discuss potential PT collaboration opportunities. It was strictly business, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something shift. Here's the thing about Emma that's different from Sarah, she gets it. Not just the business stuff, but the grind, the vision, the why behind what I do. When I talk about wanting to help people change their lives through fitness, she doesn't roll her eyes or call it an obsession. She adds to the conversation, shares her own experiences, makes it better. One evening, we were going over some plans for a possible gym PT clinic partnership. Ashley was there too, keeping everything professional. Emma said something that stuck with me. She was talking about her own journey, how she got into PT after her sports injury, and she said sometimes, the worst things that happen to us lead us to where we're supposed to be. While this was happening, Sarah was getting desperate. She showed up at the gym one morning, all tears and apologies. She said she'd been talking to a therapist, doubted, realized her mistakes, doubted harder, and wanted to work things out. Then, in the same breath, she started questioning me about Emma again. She couldn't even fake remorse without letting her true colors show. The contrast was stark. Sarah saw the gym as competition for my attention. Emma saw it as part of who I am. Sarah tried to change me to fit her image. Emma appreciated me for exactly what I am. A guy who's passionate about fitness and helping people. Things came to a head when Sarah found out about the second location plans. She actually tried to contact the real estate agent to say I was making decisions without consulting my wife. The agent, bless her, called me immediately. I had to explain about the separation. That's when I realized I needed to make this official before Sarah could cause any damage. I called my lawyer that afternoon. While I was there, I got a text from Emma. She'd heard about a grant program for gyms partnering with healthcare providers. No pressure, just passing along information she thought might help. The timing of that message hit different. Later that night, Jake found me hitting the heavy bag after hours. He asked me straight up what was holding me back, not just with the divorce, but with everything. It made me realize I'd spent so long trying to make Sarah happy that I'd forgotten what made me happy. The next day, I had coffee with Emma again. This time, it felt different. Not just business, not just friendship, but possibility. She must have felt it too because she said, once all this is settled, maybe we should discuss this over dinner instead of coffee. For the first time in months, I felt like I could see a future that actually made sense. 2 months into our separation, Sarah's company went through what they called a strategic reorganization. Translation, they fired half the marketing department, including her. Suddenly, Miss I Don't Owe You Intimacy was facing some real-world consequences of her actions. Here's where it gets good. Remember all those social media posts she made about being a boss babe and a marketing genius? All those designer purchases she justified as maintaining her professional image? Yeah, turns out those skills don't mean much when you're job hunting in a tough market. The day after she lost her job, she called me crying. Not about us, not about the marriage, but about money. See, she just financed that Range Rover 3 months ago and had a bunch of credit card debt I didn't even know about. She wanted to know if I could help out until she found something new. Meanwhile, I was finalizing the lease on the second gym location, the one she said was a midlife crisis. Turns out Emma's tip about that up-and-coming area was solid gold. The demographics were perfect, and we had a wait list of PT clients before we even opened. Speaking of Emma, things were developing there too. We'd kept everything professional during the separation, but we'd been spending more time together working on the gym PT clinic collaboration. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting with investors, we went out to celebrate with the team. The way she looked at me across that table, let's just say I finally understood what it means to have someone actually see you. But back to Sarah's karma. She started showing up at the gym unannounced again, but this time with a different agenda. First, she tried the sweet ex-wife routine, all tears and I miss us, and we were so good together. When that didn't work, she switched to threats, started telling people I'd abandoned her, that I'd planned this all along. The final straw? She actually tried to claim she deserved part of the second location because she was still technically my wife when I started planning it. My lawyer actually laughed when I told him. I showed him the screenshots of her social media posts calling it my midlife crisis and her messages to friends dismissing my business plans. That shut that down real quick. Then came the day of the second location's lease signing. I posted a simple photo on Instagram, just me holding the keys, thanking my team for their support, nothing fancy. Emma had helped review the contract, her brother's a real estate lawyer, and she tagged along for moral support. Sarah saw that post and lost it completely. She started blowing up my phone with crazy messages, called Emma every name in the book, and even showed up at the new location while we were measuring for equipment, causing such a scene that one of my trainers had to escort her out. Emma and I kept things professional until the divorce was filed. But the night after I signed the papers, we had dinner. Just us, no business talk, no pretenses. I told her everything, how she'd shown me what real support looks like, how she'd helped me see my own worth. She admitted she'd been interested since that first coffee shop conversation, but respected my situation too much to act on it. The new location opened last week. Guess who showed up trying to get a free membership? Sarah, with some story about wanting to support my business now that she understands its value. Yeah, right. Funny how she suddenly respects the gym when she can't afford her fancy boutique fitness classes anymore. Emma was there for the opening, not as a client or a business partner, but as my date. The look on Sarah's face when she saw us together? Priceless. Especially when Emma started talking about our plans for a third location that'll include a full PT clinic. The best part? Sarah's Range Rover got repossessed last week. She's driving a used Civic now. Karma's a beautiful thing, isn't it?